My mother always said some secrets are meant to stay buried, but I never thought she meant my brother's life. It started on a Tuesday, the kind of gray, drizzly afternoon that makes you want to curl up with a book. Instead, my world shattered. A phone call, a screech of tires, and suddenly my little brother Leo was gone. They called it a freak accident, a hit and run on a deserted stretch of road. But as I stood in the hallway of our silent house, watching my mother clutch Leo's old blue backpack like it was a holy relic, I felt the first chill of suspicion. She didn't look like a grieving mother. She looked like a woman guarding a crime scene. "Don't you ever touch this, Alina," she whispered, her voice like cold steel as she locked the bag in the hallway closet. "It's all I have left of him. Just leave it alone." Her eyes weren't red from crying. They were sharp, scanning the windows, checking the locks. I'm a paralegal. I spend my days looking for inconsistencies in testimonies. And my mother's behavior was one giant red flag. Why would a mother hide a school bag? Why would she treat a piece of nylon and zippers like a ticking time bomb? The local police had already closed the case, citing a lack of witnesses. But something didn't sit right with me. Leo was careful. He never walked that road. 2 nights later, the house was silent. My mother was finally asleep, or so I thought. I crept toward the hallway closet, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The floorboards groaned under my weight, each sound feeling like a gunshot in the stillness. I reached for the handle, but it wouldn't budge. She hadn't just closed it, she had installed a deadbolt. That was the moment I knew this wasn't about grief. This was about evidence. I spent the next 3 hours looking for the key. I found it hidden inside a hollowed-out book in her nightstand while she slept just feet away. My hands shook as I returned to the closet. The lock clicked open with a heavy thud. I pulled out the backpack. It felt heavier than it should. As I unzipped the main compartment, I expected to find textbooks or half-eaten snacks. Instead, I found a stack of envelopes tied with a black ribbon and a burner phone that started vibrating the second I touched it. The screen lit up with a single message. "Is it handled? The officer is asking questions." My blood ran cold. I realized then that my brother's accident was a scripted event and my mother was the lead director. But who was the officer? And what did they see that made them so afraid? I heard a floorboard creak behind me. I turned around, the backpack clutched to my chest, only to see my mother standing in the shadows of the hallway, a heavy glass vase in her hand and a look in her eyes I had never seen before. "I told you not to open it, Alina," she said, her voice devoid of any emotion. My mother didn't move. She just stood there in the dimly lit hallway, the glass vase gleaming like a weapon. "Put it back, Alina," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper that felt like a threat. "You don't understand what you're doing. This isn't a game." "A game? Leo is dead, Mom," I shouted, my voice cracking. "And you have a burner phone in his bag receiving messages about an officer asking questions? What did you do?" She took a step forward, and for a second I thought she might actually strike me. But then the doorbell rang. A sharp, rhythmic pounding that echoed through the empty house. We both froze. My mother's face went from icy calm to pure terror in a heartbeat. She snatched the backpack from my hands, shoving me toward the kitchen. "Stay there. Don't say a word," she hissed, tucking the bag behind a pile of coats in the mudroom before smoothing her hair and heading to the front door. I didn't stay in the kitchen. I crept to the corner of the living room, peering through the shadows. Standing on our porch was Officer Miller. He was the one who had arrived first at the scene of Leo's accident. He looked disheveled, his uniform shirt untucked, his eyes darting around the street. "Is it done, Martha?" Miller asked the moment my mother opened the door. He didn't wait for an invite, he pushed his way inside. "The dashcam footage. Someone at the precinct is asking for the raw files. I told them they were corrupted, but they're bringing in a tech specialist tomorrow." "I told you I'd handle the bag," my mother replied, her voice trembling now. "Alina found it. She saw the phone." Miller's head snapped in my direction. He didn't see me, but he knew I was there. He reached for his belt and my heart stopped. He wasn't reaching for handcuffs, he was checking his holster. "Where is she?" he demanded. I didn't wait to find out what they planned to do. I ran. I slipped out the back laundry door, grabbing Leo's backpack from the mudroom as I bolted into the rainy night. I could hear Miller shouting behind me, the heavy thud of his boots hitting the porch steps. I scrambled over the back fence, my lungs burning, the weight of the backpack pulling at my shoulders. I hid in the crawl space under our neighbor's porch, pressing my back against the damp earth. My phone was dead, but I had the burner. I pulled it out, my fingers slick with mud. There was a gallery icon. I opened it and my breath hitched. It wasn't just photos of the accident, it was a video. The footage was grainy, taken from a high angle, likely a security camera from the warehouse near where Leo died. It showed a black SUV swerving intentionally toward my brother, but it wasn't the impact that made me sick. It was what happened after. The SUV stopped. A man got out. It was Officer Miller. And then, a second person stepped out of the passenger side. It was my mother. They weren't mourning an accident, they were inspecting a job. I watched as my mother handed Miller a thick envelope, the same kind I had seen tied with the black ribbon in the bag. She wasn't a victim of this tragedy, she was the architect. Suddenly, a flashlight beam cut through the lattice of the porch. "I know you're under here, Alina," Miller's voice boomed, sounding closer than ever. "Give me the bag and we can talk about this. Don't make me do to you what we had to do to Leo." The flashlight beam danced across the dirt, inches from my face. I held my breath, the metallic taste of fear coating my tongue. Miller was right there, his shadow stretching long and distorted against the neighbor's house. "Alina," he cooed, his voice dripping with a fake, sickening concern. "Your mom is worried, she just wants the bag back, we can fix this." I didn't move. I looked at the burner phone in my hand. There was one more folder, a hidden one protected by a passcode. I tried Leo's birthday. Locked. I tried the date of the accident. Locked. Then I looked at the black ribbon tied around the envelopes. It had a date embossed in gold, the anniversary of my father's death. I punched it in. The folder snapped open. It wasn't just about Leo. It was a ledger, a digital record of payouts from a local construction firm to Officer Miller. They were clearing land for a new highway, and Leo, who spent his weekends volunteering for the local environmental board, had found something on that land. Something that would have halted a multi-million-dollar project. My mother wasn't just an accomplice, she was the beneficiary, she had shares in that firm. "I found it," Miller shouted. He kicked the wooden lattice, the wood splintering above my head. I scrambled backward, deeper into the crawl space, clutching the backpack. I realized I couldn't just run. I needed someone who wasn't on the payroll. I needed the state police. I waited until Miller moved toward the back of the porch, then I lunged out from the side, sprinting toward the main road. The rain was a curtain now, blinding and cold. I could hear Miller's heavy breathing behind me, the jingle of his duty belt. I saw headlights, a cruiser but not Miller's. It was a state trooper sitting at a red light. I didn't stop. I threw myself in front of the car, waving my arms. The tires screeched, stopping inches from my knees. A tall, gray-haired officer stepped out, his hand on his hip. "Miss, what's going on?" "Check the bag," I screamed, thrusting Leo's backpack at him. "Officer Miller, my mother, the accident." "It's all in there?" Miller skidded to a halt 10 feet away, his face pale, his hands held out. "Trooper, wait, this girl is unstable, she just lost her brother, she's delusional. I was just trying to bring her home." The trooper looked at me, then at Miller, then at the backpack. He unzipped the small front pocket. He pulled out the burner phone, the video of the SUV was still playing. The trooper's expression shifted. He didn't look at me. He looked at Miller, then he looked past us to where my mother was standing at the edge of the driveway, watching. The trooper turned pale, not because of the blood in the video, but because he recognized the driver of the SUV in the background of the footage. It wasn't just Miller and my mother, there was a third person. "Miller," the trooper whispered, his voice shaking. "Is that the police chief's car in the frame?" The loop was bigger than I thought. The entire local precinct was protecting the accident. But the trooper didn't put the phone away. He looked at my mother, who had started to back away into the darkness of our house. "Ma'am," the trooper barked, his hand moving to his radio. "Step away from the door, now," the trooper's voice cut through the rain like a whip. My mother froze, her hand gripping the doorframe, her face a mask of crumbling composure. Officer Miller took a step back, his eyes darting toward his cruiser, calculating his chances of escape. But it was too late. The trooper had already keyed his mic, calling for state backup and reporting a code 1000 officer-involved felony. "Elena, get behind the car," the trooper ordered, his gaze locked on Miller. I didn't just hide. I pulled the burner phone from the bag and started a live stream to a cloud server I used for work. If they were going to delete the evidence, they'd have to delete the entire internet. Miller saw the glow of the screen. He knew the game was over. He slumped against his car, the realization hitting him that his pension and his freedom were gone in a single rainy night. But the real revenge wasn't the handcuffs. It was what happened when the state investigators arrived an hour later. They didn't just find the phone, they found the ledger. They traced the payments from the construction firm directly to my mother's offshore account, an account she had set up using my father's social security number. She hadn't just betrayed Leo, she had been desecrating my father's memory for years. As they led her out of the house in plastic zip ties, she looked at me. There were no tears, only a cold, haunting silence. "I did it for our future, Elena," she whispered as she passed me. "Leo was going to ruin everything." "Leo was the only future that mattered, Mom," I replied, my voice steady for the first time that night. "And now your future is a 6x8 cell." The fallout was massive. The police chief was forced into early retirement before being indicted on obstruction charges. Miller took a plea deal, turning state's evidence against the construction firm executives to avoid a life sentence. But my mother, she got no such mercy. The video evidence was too clear, the intent too malicious. I sold the house built on secrets and blood money, and donated every cent to the environmental board Leo loved so much. I kept the backpack though, not as a trophy but as a reminder. Sometimes the people who tell you don't open that door or don't look in that bag aren't trying to protect you from the truth. They're trying to protect themselves from the justice they know is coming. As I sat in the courtroom on the day of her sentencing, watching the woman who raised me be led away to begin a 20-year sentence, I felt a strange sense of peace. The accident was finally over, the truth was out, and Leo was finally resting in a world where the backpack was finally empty, because the truth had been set free.